Alright, here we go. Today is October 1st, 2017, and I'm going to make some comments on the document here. It has to do with delivery, best practices for teaching online, and we're going to take a look at teacher's presence, response to questions, assignments, student to instructor, student to student interaction. So, alright, I had to answer the phone, so I'm back. Student intervention, student preparation. Alright, so what I have on the next page, this was the original page. I have, these are my notes from last year. Okay. So I'm going to highlight some things from the notes. I'll start right up here. Engaging and interacting with students. We discussed this previously, and let me make a point right here. Alright. I'm not sure, when we put something like this together, we were referring to online 100%. I put a note on here to get this to you, Scott. Guidelines and expectations. I really think, we need to look at the approach as a guideline and expectations of what the instructors will be doing in comparison to a policy or a specific rule where people are going to be counting specific things. Okay? Alright, so that's my 2 cents on that. So let's take a look here at this first item. 4 times a week sounds like a lot to me. I was thinking twice a week. I'd be good with whatever group or you decide, Scott, but this obviously is extremely important. And I think it depends on, people start worrying about how many credits and how much of this and how much of that, and I really am not sure any of that makes a difference in the fact that this is extremely important. And I just say at least twice a week, whether it's 1 credit, 4 credits, whatever the course is, even whether it's hybrid or not hybrid, at least twice a week you are in the course, checking, doing some things. By the way, I don't know what that is there, but OLC scorecard. I suppose I could look it up. Anyway, and then, this idea that the instructor is engaged with the students. I just think that's the most important part. And you can do this a lot of different ways, whether it's just being in Canvas or communicating by texting, or there's lots of different ways of doing that. But you need to have the presence and you need to be available. Okay? That's probably part of this, or this combination of these two. I have a note here that third party, sorry about that, third party things, that must be like when you use other courses, other vendors and materials and so forth. Like I use a lot of Cisco curriculum materials, okay, but they're all in Canvas, and so it's just like operating Canvas. the important part is that the quality is there, and not worry about counting things all the time. Now I have this note here from the HLC, so I don't know. There may be specifics where the higher learning whatever is all worried about you specifying certain things. So I'm okay with that. I just think it still should be a guideline in terms of what we're doing. All right, so let me take a look here then. Response to questions. I do this. I mean, this is pretty standard for me, and I talk to students. I try to follow this too. But I think what I have found personally, let me highlight something here. What I have found is when I do this, and then follow up and let them know how soon I'm going to be able to do these things, that seems to work pretty good. you know, um, I try to follow online courses, due dates being matching certain days or certain times so students get used to it. It doesn't fit all the courses that I teach just because of the materials and how it works, but I try to follow that. So I think this is okay. That sounds too formal. I say a week. If when it's due, I tell them I'll try to have it graded within a week, or I'll let them know if I'm running behind or if it's something that takes longer than that. But I do believe it needs to be clearly stated. This is good. I wouldn't call that weekly. I find sometimes in online classes some students are very disgusted with discussions. I've had in some cases students saying I don't need to hear other people's stupid remarks, etc. I had an instructor tell me that, who was taking a course from me here on campus. So I think it depends on what you're trying to do, so I wouldn't limit this. It encourages regular interaction between students, if it makes sense. I know one thing, some students get tired of discussions if you just have discussions for discussions, okay? But as long as it's relevant, a way to ask each other questions. I'm trying to do that. That's hard to do, at least been for me. But anyway, I better keep moving here. So if we take a look at, I got a couple more items. The this, without a doubt, is really important. I put Terry Ewer's name here. We have Dropout Detective. Within a week, I'm good with that, but sometimes it just doesn't fit. Somewhere you have to be really clear in your online class, what your expectations are for students to do some work. I think it's really important to have some work available for you to grade early. I send out a letter and have the students respond to the letter prior to course starting, to give them the syllabus and some basic rules, Google Docs to fill out and so forth, and a survey. So I try to get interaction before we even start, and then there's something to do the very first couple days. So I think that's really important, and it's of value. It's not just to see if they're there. It's something they need to do so I can get started. When you do the course introductions, all that stuff. This is important. I think this should be the goal. We have that whole big plan on how to roll out online classes, which I think it's really good. I think the plan is good. Here again, I'll say guidelines. Whoops, guidelines are important because sometimes this doesn't always match. I got a little note here. Somebody in the meeting said Kirkwood and Eastern Iowa 2 weeks prior to the course running. It's got to be prepared, but I actually should probably that's good. Or I'm not sure if we want a date on that or how we do that. And down here, there's just some notes. There's just some notes that students had some issues with some processes, but I think we've got those taken care of before. Then, of course, how do we help the adjuncts do all this? Anyway, hope that wasn't too long. I could type up some notes too, and I'll try to get this to you ASAP. Thanks, Scott.